Welcome to another edition of Pants Optional. It's Pop Code HQ's Zoom interview segment where we chat with comic book creators about their latest projects and get the lowdown, but from the waist up. I'm Jason Bennett, chief editor and writer of Pop Code HQ. We have a special Kickstarter spotlight edition of Pants Optional. Today, I have the privilege of chatting with writer Mark Sable, who you may know from What If Spider-Man Killed Kraven the Hunter, at Marvel, Teen Titans Cold Case, Two-Face Year One at DC, over at Image. He's done Graveyard of Empires, Miskatonic at Aftershock. You've probably seen him in some form or another, no matter where your comic book preferences are. His next project is called Chaotic Neutral. It's an oversized comic book, first issue, and adventure module inspired by the old school fantasy RPGs that scared the nation, coming to Kickstarter September 27th. So please welcome to the show, Mark Sable. Mark, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Jason.
Hey, glad we could connect. Yeah, let's get right into this. Kind of get some insight to people. Chaotic Neutral it's going to be a 48-page debut issue filled with violence, satanic cults, magic, cursing, nudity, all while wrapped in this high adventure fantasy storytelling of yours. From where did you draw the inspiration to tell this story of this young farmer Stellan, his love interest Isabella, and the impending clash between Satanists and local villagers?
So I've been a comic fan since I've been a kid, and I've also been a big fan of role-playing games as well, and played them. As a kid, I had a hard time finding people to play with, but I would still buy all the Dungeons and Dragons modules. And then more recently, in the past, let's say 7 years, I started running my own game. And I love especially Dungeons and Dragons, and I love that stuff. But I feel like the inspiration came from really like old school Dungeons and Dragons, like when I was a kid in the 80s, always felt like really dangerous to me. It would be, because there was this thing called the Satanic Panic that happened in the 80s when, religious groups and other groups were started to tell people listen, this isn't just a game. You'll sell your soul to the devil if you play this. So parents got scared.
I remember it vividly. I knew this is where you're going. I remember it exactly because we're right. I think I got a couple of years on you, but yeah, I remember it. It was a big thing. This is before internet. This is before,
right.
This is, and the way that, like you were saying, you had a hard time, connecting and doing RPGs back then. It was just, around who you knew. There wasn't the advent of the internet. There wasn't that interconnectivity, and it's actually growth that you've had over these years since then. But
yeah, no, and the growth and everything is great. And I love how much more accessible the game is, I think. And so what we're trying to do is, on the one hand, evoke that spirit of danger and say well, okay, what if those religious groups were right? And that there really was this satanic element to it. And so we show demons and things that start by the late 80s were just completely removed from the game. And at the same time, yes, while there's nudity and stuff, it's still, I would say, we're still aiming this at a modern audience. So, there's, we try to have a really diverse cast that you probably wouldn't have seen in early 80s role-playing games. Things like that, where it's not all female nudity, and it's hopefully not done in a lurid way. Exactly. It's just, we're trying to have fun with it. So yeah, so that was the idea, was I wanted to have something that evoked that. Chris Anderson is the artist on the book, is fantastic. And what I remember from those books is they would have these great painted covers, and Chris drew a cover, which this artist named Mira Lark then painted over. But then inside the old Dungeons and Dragons books, now it's all digital and it's beautiful, but they used to be this almost amateurish black and white art. And I was even though that sometimes it might not be as fancy as things now are, it always was it was super weird, and it just stirred my imagination so much as a kid. So I wanted to kind of capture that, and I think Chris has done this great job of doing that, but also adding this kind of whimsical side he has that kind of, I think, balances out the dark story of human sacrifice and satanic cults and all that. And then the big thing was always just I also remember, this is probably now we're talking the 90s, when DC Comics would have official Advanced Dungeons and Dragons and Dragonlance and Forgotten Realms comics. And then they would have stats for the characters in the back, which I loved, you know, so that if you did want to play, you could use those characters. But I was like, why hasn't somebody, and somebody probably has, but I've just never come across it, but taken that further and actually had an adventure. Like, so if we're going to do something that's based on a role-playing game, like, let's also give the readers an adventure that they can play in the same world as the characters, fight the same monsters, but allow them to make different choices. Because to me, that's the biggest thrill of either playing or running a game, is just like, well, okay, if you're, in my opinion, if you're the best, like the best D&D games I've played is where just like, you know, if a character, you can decide to kind of do anything, and the dungeon master, which I am most of the time, like, I don't railroad my players. So if my players decide to go off plot, well, I'm just going to follow them wherever that leads. Like, they decide they don't want to fight the monster, but join forces with them. All right, well, let's see what the consequences are of that. So get those elements into a comic. And I should say that this comic book story itself is 48 pages. So the module is going to add, I think it'll probably wind up being between 70 and 80 pages. We're still laying out the module, but it's written and we're play testing it. But so it's going to be a big book.
Yeah, no, and it really looks like it. And like mentioned, partnering with Chris Anderson, he's known for a lot of comics and stuff and work at like Heavy Metal, Creep Show, Lost Angels. He's done a number of horror one-shots. So I'm really looking forward to see how some of these shots look at on the campaign. And yeah, and that was the other part of it, that it's not only this comic, it's also this adventure module kind of mashed together. And plus, on top of that, you've also tapped Ryan Brown, who for people probably familiar with curse words or God Hates Astronauts, he's adding an all new Chick Tract style comic to the book. How did you come to bring Ryan on board for this, and what would you say his contribution adds to the overall project that you're putting out?
So, you know, first, for my money, I think like Ryan is probably the funniest like comic creator that I know. I mean, and like in terms of he's funny in real life too, but I mean, on the page, just like, I remember reading God Hates Astronauts for the first time and just laughing out loud. So rarely do that with a comic. You know, I think humor comics are so hard to pull off, and thankfully, you know, I've loved his work. We've been friends. He's played in my D&D campaign. He also runs fantasy baseball and football like games that I've been a part of. So the idea for people in the audience that may not know what a Chick Tract is, they were these, Jack Chick is this late comic artist, which actually I think was a good artist, but he did these religious tracts, which were basically, again, meant to scare people. So there was a famous one called Dark Dungeons that was specifically to scare people away from D&D, but he also tried to scare people away from, you know, like The Walking Dead or other, you know, he'd do like all these religious things. So, and they'd be like these little pamphlets, and they tell a story of somebody who did something, and then like Satan gets them, unless the person comes, you know, has, you know, like, you know, finds religion. So basically Ryan is doing a satirical version of that. So I wrote it and Ryan has been drawing it, although I've been like, Ryan, just, you know, please like rewrite anything, because he's, you know, again, he's such a brilliant creator, just both as a writer and an artist, that I wanted to give him something, but I also wanted to have him let loose with it. And what I think it hopefully adds to the project is we want this to really feel like this artifact from time. So that's something that, yes, it's still readable and playable today, but we want to feel like this looks like it could have been made in like 1983. You know, so it's like almost like a Stranger Things kind of thing where we're pretending that this is what really happened. So we're adding it, you know, as part of it, we're going to have this Chick Tract that's like telling people why they shouldn't read the book and play the game. And it's a little bit meta, I guess.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing, you know, because back then when initially these tracks came out, yeah, it was a very, you know, if you do this, you're going to hell. If you do this, you know, and it was definitely a scare tactic. You know, it's something today would probably seem a little more comical, being done in 2021. So I'm definitely, and also giving Ryan that flexibility, kind of improvise a little bit. So I'm curious to see how that goes out. Another thing that's also being included and this blew my mind. So you're already talking about, how it integrates with role-playing games. There are going to be a number of chaotic neutral monster trading cards, which are playable characters for any campaign. And you pulled off just like this top name, these high profile creators like Tim Seeley, Dan Panosian, Kyle Strom, Max Dunbar, Jeremy Hahn. I mean, just so many, Jim Rugg. How did that just explode into everyone trying to get involved and taking on a character of their own to bring to the chaotic neutral experience?
So, other Kickstarters have done so I have my friend Chip Mosier did a book called Blacking Out on Kickstarter, and which is this great noir book. And he had them do artist friends of his do and acquaintance, colleagues of his do lobby cards, you used to see at movies. And I was like, well, how can I do something like that, but not have it feel forced? Like a lobby card wouldn't make sense for chaotic neutral. And then I thought, okay, so there used to be, and they go for quite a bit actually on eBay these days, but there used to be again, Dungeons and Dragons did these advanced Dungeons and Dragons, I guess, did these trading cards back in the late 70s or early 80s, where you'd have a monster on front and on the back statistics. So once we had that idea, we priced it out and then just reached out to, both Chris and I are fortunate enough to either have worked with or been friends with just great comic artists. And I can't believe all the people that, that said yes. It's very gracious of them and their time. And just, look, I can't believe I got to work with them or even be friends with them. It's just, even as a creator, I'm still a fan. So, crazy to me with Jim Rugg, we both teach a class together at the School of Visual Arts. So, but that, he didn't have to do it either. So it was super nice of him. And so I'm super excited about it. And yeah, on the back will be statistics. So you can fight these monsters. Some are classic monsters. There's some skeletons and there's a demon that, the demon Baphomet, but others are just completely original things that were created for that. And I wanted people to feel whether you're approaching it as a comic reader or a gamer, as both, you're getting something new, you're getting something original. Yes, we're evoking these classic tropes, but we're also trying to create new things within it.
Yeah, and getting each of them illustrated by just this who's who of artists. That's so great that and I've seen on your social media too that I've seen a lot of people getting excited about this. I think you really are already there's generating some really good buzz. So I can't wait to see how launch goes tomorrow.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I know. It's scary. Kickstarters, yeah. I mean, it's no guarantee, but the great thing about this is it already feels just like a packed, well-rounded book that stands alone well on itself. But with all these things like the adventure module and the cards, in addition, you're going to have tiers available. There are going to be other things available to add on or to include in what people back for your campaign. Isn't that right?
Yeah, so I think so obviously you can get the book. I think we're having different tiers, if it's signed. I think Chris will do a sketch in it for, Chris is selling original art. The two tiers that are my favorites, if I were backing, I'd be even more excited about them than I am as somebody who's running, so one is that Chris will as a separate thing, will draw, if you're a role player, will draw whoever your character is in your campaign. So great, because he's part of a campaign that I've been running for, I want to say 3 years now. I mean, it's been multiple campaigns, but it's basically the same group. And so for the we're currently doing, he did it for them. And what's been great is, so he drew the characters we've been playing with, and then they've been using them as tokens because we play online. So every time you move their character around, instead of it being a pre-generated thing, it's this very bespoke character token. So I think that's really cool. And then my favorite thing, just selfishly for me, is at a higher tier, I'm offering to run the module myself as the dungeon master. So depending on how many people, I would probably want no more than 4 or 5 people in a group. So hopefully we get a ton, and I run multiple groups through it. But I think that's kind of cool, just because I've said this before, but I think, growing up as a comic fan and then being a comic creator, one of my favorite things about this business is just how accessible I think most creators are. I still remember growing up as a kid, I was an X Factor fan and an Iron Man fan, and meeting Bob Layton was the first creator I ever met. And he was so nice. And like, you can't do that in any other, like in movies. Like, I love Martin Scorsese's movies, but I'm not going to go to a convention and he, and he's going to like, sign my copy of, my DVD of like, Raging Bull. But like, but that's one of the special things about Kickstarter. And I think one of the it is special about Kickstarter, but about comics. And one of the special things about role-playing games is just that it's a group thing. It's a collaborative thing. Like, whether you're a player, a dungeon master, or a game master, you get to create a story with somebody else. That's what's so fun about it. That's why that's what I enjoy doing. So I feel like this is a way, like, okay, for fans that want to hang out with me, but not just hang out, like have a real experience. And that's the thing about an adventure module is, no matter how tightly I write it, everybody's experience is going to be different. So, but I think hopefully I can offer them, kind of a special experience of like, okay, this is the person who wrote the module. Like, and, so I'm excited. I hope a ton of people sign up for it, even if, even if that means I have to run 100 games or something. I'd be so excited. It's one of the things I like about Kickstarter too, where it's just like, I love to get to know the people reading my books. My readers, my fans have been nothing but nice to me, whether it's in person or online. I don't know, I've just been lucky. I just have had only good experiences. So yeah, I'm looking forward to being able to share that with the backers.
And that's what does bring a lot of backers back too, is that personal relationship you can build with the creators of these Kickstarters, campaigns, comics, whatever. And especially over like the last year and a half with, conventions being shut down and everything, that you can't go to, to a con and see the person, get things autographed, but there is still that way to be able to connect with your fan base, which is great. So, it's just amazing. I can't wait till this thing launches. There's so many individual things about this campaign which make it appealing, but being jam-packed in this massive, well-rounded comic adventure module, role-playing experience, and just filled to the brim with all the talent contributing. This is going to be a slam dunk, and I really look forward to you hooked me for sure. So there you have it, folks. So get out, support, and share the Kickstarter campaign for Chaotic Neutral, running September 27th for 30 days. Mark, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me and Popco HQ, and I can't wait to see this bad boy funded.
Thank you so much, Jason, and take care.